it's like, it's like gold. You spread it around. That's caring.
Okay, right now it's 7:36. Let's start for today open section. Before the open section, we have some closed section report. Refer to the 3B. The Board of Education took unanimously action in closed section to approve a settlement agreement for the student number 9562. Refer to the 3C. The Board of Education took unanimous action in closed section to approve a settlement agreement for the student number 1174. Refer to the 3D, the first non-re-election. In closed section, the board takes action unanimously under agenda item 3D to approve the non-re-election of a probationary certificate employee identified by the employee ID number VXA9323009. Second, GN1A3676. And then third, MX6904374. And then the 3D to release and reassign in closed section, the board unanimously took action under agenda item 3D to approve the service of a notice of release and reassignment to certificate employee ID number BX32A6036. That's all tonight for the closed section. Okay. Right now, let's call to the order for tonight, open section. Please rise. 6A, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 6B, approval agenda. Can I have a motion?
Yes, I will move to approve the agenda, but with the modification that because the last two items on the agenda are very important, and I think that 11, I think that the MOU with PCC can go very quickly, so I'll move that we actually just move that up to the front of the agenda if we could. Make that the new 11A, just get that out of the way. So I think we'll go quickly.
So you will suggest to move to which one?
To move
11, 12B.
To move
12B.
12B.
Okay, 12B.
Yes, up to the front of the agenda.
Okay. Any second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Still a vote?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, next, 6C, approval of minutes. The first one, February 11, 2020 minutes. Can I have a motion?
So
moved.
Okay, Colin, make motion.
I'd like to second.
Okay. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Still a vote?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, next. The minutes for the February 25th, 2020. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Still a vote?
Aye.
Motion carried. Seven, public comment. The Board of Education has adopted Board Policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matter pertaining to the Marino Unified School District. We respectfully request that if you would like to address the board about any matter, you complete a request to submit public comment card, which has an instruction on the back of the card. If you would like to speak to the board about a matter that is not on the agenda, please fill up the card now and hand it to the assistant to the superintendent. The Brown Act prohibits board members from discussing or taking action on non-agenda items. If you would like to speak to the board about a topic that is on the agenda, please fill up the card and hand it to the assistant to the superintendent now, and no later than when the agenda topic is called by the board president. The board will not hear the public comment once discussion of the particular agenda topic by the board has begun. The president of the board will invite speakers to the podium to address the board at the appropriate time. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. However, in the event there are more than 4 speakers on the same subject matter, the board president retains the discretion to adjust and limit the time allocated to each speaker to ensure that all wishes to speak will be heard within the 20 minutes allotment, or to remove the item from the agenda to be discussed at a later regular or special board meeting. 7A. Communication from the audience regarding matters not on the agenda to be made at this time.
President Chang, we have a number of requests to the same topic. Not this is
Okay, first one is Serafina Parado. Can you come?
President Chang, we're together on
Oh,
this
okay.
one.
And also second is Denise Wadsworth.
Good evening, President Chang and Superintendent Wilson and all the members of our amazing board. May is Better Speech and Hearing Month. May is also a very busy month in SMUSD, so we thought we'd just take a quick opportunity to provide you an overview of the vital services our speech and language pathologists provide for the district. We help children understand and use language to support literacy and their future vocational skills. We address articulation, fluency, syntax, semantics, and my favorite, pragmatics and social thinking. That's the idea of, what do I need to do to keep you calm and comfortable, and what do you need to do to keep me calm and comfortable? So to keep you calm and comfortable, we want you to know that our state-approved caseload is 55, but caseload does not equal workload. If you can imagine a child that you each had who was colicky at some point and crying all night, you thought that child was going to take a long time to ever get better. And those little angels do take a long time. And when you're giving that time, you're giving more time to them. So that's the same with our children with extreme special needs like autistic spectrum disorder. One child with autistic spectrum disorder does not equal a child who we're helping remediate an S or an R for. They take much, much more time. We also provide indirect services and direct services, which Serafina is going to help us understand right now.
Hi there. So I want to explain that the district's SLPs serve students with single and multiple disabilities from the age ranges of 3 years to 22. Our workload consists of direct services, indirect services, consultation with parents and teachers and classroom aides. Our speech and language pathologists are often the first line of intervention as pediatricians begin to notice that children are not meeting their milestones in language, and that's where we begin our services. We receive referrals through the regional center, and for our preschoolers, and also the student study team processes for our school-aged students. We request approval to assess and receive and schedule time to assess our students. We are careful about which evaluations we perform, our assessments, and complete and score them thoroughly. We write our reports and we invite parents to IEPs, and we prepare the IEP documents. We write goals to support what we offer as our free and appropriate public education in the least restrictive environment. And the IEP team carefully considers what students need to accomplish in order to access the curriculum and meet IEP goals. So as we work with the district's most vulnerable students with language and literacy disorders, we understand that oral language is the underpinning of both literacy and behavior, and we know that our youngest children who struggle to communicate or differentiate sounds are more than likely to require referrals later. So we know that at SMUSD, we know that all students are vulnerable, and we pride ourselves in providing top quality services.
So in summary, we are problem solvers. We are your service providers. We are San Marino Unified. We are proud to be here. Our responsibilities and actions meet our goals set forth in achieving our IEPs. We look forward to working with you, Mr. Kurtenbach, in reaching our LCAP goals of exceptional teaching and learning, exceptional connections, and exceptional financial sustainability. We welcome the board to ask us questions or reach out to us further for information regarding what we do as your district SLPs. Thank you.
Next, Leticia Aranda.
So I submitted two,
You
but I
put
think one of them does not need to be addressed right
You
now.
have two, but the first one you put the topic not on the agenda, sunshine.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was informed by Mrs. Delatorre that we have provided our sunshine. A sunshine is when a union presents what it is they will be negotiating for. But it has to be recognized in the actual board minutes.
Yeah.
And so it has been placed out, but will not be agendized
Okay.
until next time.
So yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So wait for your next. Yeah, okay. In the
Everyone else?
11B, okay. Okay, the next Daniel Lee.
Hello, members of the school board, superintendent and president. My name is Daniel Lee. I am here representing the U.S. Federal Census Bureau to talk about a very important subject that is just a couple days away, the 2020 U.S. Census. The 2020 Census is extremely important to the state of California. We have yearly, for the next 10 years, $675 billion that will be allocated to each of the 50 states, depending on an accurate population count. The population count has been going on since almost the founding of our nation, 1790. We've been doing it every single 10 years without a hitch, and this year is no different. And so we just want to boost our numbers here, especially in California, because they were pretty low in 2010. We missed a lot of federal funding back then. Also, what we have at stake is not just funding, because San Marino is obviously a very wealthy area, but if that's not what you need, we also need congressional House seats, which are at stake. And so in Congress, we have two chambers. We have the Senate, and we have the House of Representatives. And the House of Representatives side is where the numbers will be determined by the population count. Obviously, California, we have the highest population count, and that's therefore we have the highest number of seats. However, there is a danger that we may lose some of these seats to other states because of an inaccurate count. And so that is where we at the Census Bureau will need your assistance. That is why I'm here talking to different school districts. I actually work out here in the San Gabriel Valley area. I live in Temple City. I've been going to different parts of the area, and unfortunately San Marino couldn't get to you sooner. But your statistics are pretty good, again, but 10 years ago, that was the data that we accrued saying that San Marino did participate very well in the census. However, 10 years later, now in this present time, things may have changed. So that money is money that will go into things such as our public schools. This is money that will go into after-school programs, free lunches. It will go to school supplies. This will go into our children's free flu shots, any public service, other facilities that we use, including libraries, parks and recreation. This will go into rebuilding our roads here in California, the terrible roads in LA County. We use a lot of that money. Also, this is money that will go into helping our emergency personnel that are fighting the wildfires, which we have so frequently here in the state of California. So a lot of money at stake, a lot of power in our representation in Washington, D.C. at stake. To give you a point of reference, in 2010, the state of Texas, they were able to gain 4 congressional House seats. So they have 4 leaders now. The state of New York, on the eastern side in 2010, they actually lost 2 seats, even though they have a high population. So there was something wrong with their numbers. State of California, we stayed the same at 53 congressional House seats, and so I'm hoping that in 2020 we can be able to boost those numbers. So how it will work is that you will receive a postcard in the mail starting from March 12th, which is a couple of days from now. The first batch of invitations will come to your door. The beauty of the census this year is that we will be able to take the census online, and you can also do it by phone as well. So one person who picks up that postcard will have a website that's listed on the postcard. You can go into the website, and then there will be a passcode on your postcard. You plug it in, and then that'll pull up the census questionnaire. You can fill it out, just 9 simple questions. One person can fill it out for up to 99 people. Okay, so we've got huge homes here in San Marino, so I'm sure you can accommodate that. So that includes anyone, a citizen, non-citizen, undocumented, someone living in your garage, someone living in your closet, mothers, children, families, multi-families living under a single roof. That's fine if your house is over, you have overcapacity, which is technically not legal under LA County law. That doesn't matter. The federal government doesn't care about that. We just want the numbers. We just want the head count. So make sure your numbers are accurate. Please participate in the census. It's going to happen in a couple days. If you do not fill out the census completely, or for some reason you fail to participate, the government will come knocking on your door to retrieve that information. So we don't want anyone, to have a knock on the door from the government. So please participate. And lastly, your data is strictly protected by Title 13 of the U.S. Constitution under federal law, so that this information will not be released, will not be shared with anyone. Certainly will not be shared with ICE. Certainly will not be shared with the CIA, FBI. TSA, any other federal agency out there cannot touch our data. Lastly, this data is very, very useful, especially for our children, our students who are growing, entering college. A lot of the census data, which you can access on census.gov, can be used for students in their college degrees, for math, statistics, developers, as well.
Time's off. Okay.
So, yes, please make sure to take a census. Very, very important.
Thank you.
Do we have more comment on the public comment?
No.
Okay, and then the public comment is over. Okay, next go to the 8th public hearing section. The board has adopted board policy 9323B to ensure the public's right to be heard in any matter pertaining to the San Marino Unified School District. We respectfully request that if you would like to address the Board of Education about any matter, you complete a request to address the board card and submit to the superintendent prior to the start of the meeting or to the assistant to the superintendent during the meeting. The president of the board will invite speakers to the podium to address the board. 5 minutes may be allotted to each speaker and a maximum of 20 minutes to each subject matter. 8A 2020-21 California School Employee Association CSEA Sunshine Proposal for contract negotiation between the San Marino Unified School District and the CSEA local chapter number 120. So we have one topic on the agenda. This agenda, CSEA Sunshine. Margaret, please. Okay.
Good evening, President Chang, school board members, Ms. Davis, Superintendent Wilson, and Cabinet. Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to announce, and as you can see, I'm submitting the proposal for the California School Employees Association, and it's San Marino Chapter 120. The initial proposal, 2020 to 2023, the successor negotiation. And it is sunshining for our proposal for the 2021 negotiations. Please see that we are doing Article 6, transfer procedures, Article 7, wages and salaries, Article 9, hours and overtime, Article 10, leave of absences, Article 11, vacation, Article 12, holidays, Article 15, employee evaluation procedures, Article 16, discharge and discipline, Article 17, job opening and promotion, Article 21, association rights, Article 24, layoff and reemployment, and finally, Article 28, the term. Okay, I respectfully submit this to the school board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next 9, consent section. Can I have a motion from the 9A to 9H?
So moved to approve, subject to any adjustments that may be made in 9H, depending on what we hear in 11B tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Still and vote?
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, 10 communication section, 10A communication from the Board of Education. Because tonight we have a packed agenda, so each one only limit to 1 minute to report. Start from the Lisa.
No pressure.
Yeah, well, you can see the various things that I did, but just a shout out to the students at Huntington Middle School, a wonderful production of Sound of Music. Really enjoyed that, and then also the Valentine Parent Party was a great event as well.
Please.
Yes, many events as you can see, but I'll just highlight one or two within 1 minute for reasons that should be obvious later in this meeting, and that is attending the San Marino Schools Foundation meeting and San Marino High School mock college interviews. Tremendous kids, just the very best, and that's why we're here. And we have to remember that. These outstanding students should be headed for the colleges in which they belong and they deserve, and we have to do everything we can to support them.
Okay, thank you, Corey.
So actually the thing I'd like to highlight is I went to the Partnership for Awareness presentation, Tim Elmore, which I know he also came and spoke to students at the high school and middle school. From a parent point of view, it was really interesting to learn how to parent a Generation Z child, some of the things my wife and I were doing, and other things were great suggestions. I think he gave a really great talk for parents, but I also heard the students really enjoyed those presentations as well and really took a lot from them. So I thank PFA for bringing Tim to our district.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry.
All right, so last month I forgot to report on the robotics that I attended. President Chang and I met with PCC trustee Linda Wah. Okay, now I can't see that. Where was I? Okay. Regarding the dual enrollment and pathways. I am on daily conferences, phone conferences regarding the coronavirus updates from the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, from Huntington Hospital, through the API caucuses, from senators. Everyone's got these conference calls out so that I can receive the latest update. And then finally, I just want to report that we're in good hands. So thank you, Amber, for all that you do to get the communication out and in keeping our community aware and safe. Thank you.
Okay, next is me. Okay. First of all, I want to congratulate Carver and the Valentine PTA party. Yeah, thank you for those two school PTA leadership and also co-chair. Yeah, it's a very successful party. Secondly, I have an announcement from the Vice President of Huntington Library. Okay, so they decided this year's Marino Day on the April 14 will cancel because of virus issue. Yeah, so please don't go to the Huntington Library April 14. Yeah, there's no more. Yeah. And also for the Huntington Library Chance Garden Phase 2 grand opening gala May 16 also cancelled. Okay, that's my report.
Thank you.
Next to can be communication from the superintendent.
Thank you, President Chang. I too will keep my remarks very short. It's been a wonderful couple of weeks of being out with students, and that truly is what energizes me and what enlightens me. And there was a couple opportunities I want to feature. One was had a chance with Amber to go over to the Huntington and actually see our honors humanities program play out, watch the students actually sit and interact over art and around literature as well. And it's really a robust, neat program for our kids to be involved in. And I really, really enjoyed that. The Sound of Music was amazing. I just was honestly blown away by the quality of musicianship. Those voices, I mean, many of those kids are gonna end up on The Voice or American Idol or something like that, but it was stunning, just the quality and the work those kids put into it to just nail those parts. And we were there opening night, so I was expecting a bunch of glitches, but they nailed it that opening night. So yeah, really, really excellent program. And then I would end it with the 49er Day at Carver, which was just wonderful to walk around the campus, sit next to kids, watch what they were working on and talking about and excited about and their clothing. Had a bunch of great pictures with that. So really a good couple of weeks of being out there with kids. So thank you.
Okay. Next, Tenshi from our popular student board.
I'll try to keep this brief as well. So for Carver and Valentine, February 28th is the end of trimester 2. For Carver, March 2nd was their Dr. Seuss Day. Valentine, March 3rd, the 5th graders went to Descanso Gardens. March 4th, 1st grade went to the Huntington Library. And also Danny's Petting Zoo came and visited. Huntington Middle School, February 28th was their 7th and 8th grade ASB dance. March 3rd, Dr. Elmore did their all-school assembly. And then March 5th through 7th was the spring musical. For San Marino, February 29th was our Game Con. March 4th, we also had our PFA assembly and the Healthy Kids survey. March 5th was club recruitment as well as case studies night. And then March 6th was Club Rush.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, so Chris, we are moving to the 12B, right?
Yes.
Okay. 12B due enrollment MOU with the Pasadena Area Community College District. Jason.
Thank you, President Chang, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Wilson, Student Board Member Davis, and Executive Team. It is recommended that the board take action tonight to approve the updated MOU with PCC regarding dual enrollment. Approval of this MOU tonight will enable the PCC board to review and take action at their next board meeting on March 18th, which, if approved, will allow SMUSD and PCC to develop courses for our students to access through dual enrollment, potentially as early as next school year.
So tonight we don't have a PCC representative here.
Yes, Linda's right there.
Linda.
Huh? Oh, Linda. Linda is PCC trustee.
Trustee.
Yeah. let's welcome her here. So any question on the current?
Can you just do a quick overview of how this changed from the last one we approved? Is there any significant?
Just some little language pieces, a couple of typos that were caught, but a couple of the updates that we suggested, and I put those in the board memo about what was accepted and what wasn't, but nothing significant.
This is the third reading, so
Yes, this is third reading and also action item.
Second.
Okay, no more question, comment? Okay, then let's take the action,
He
yeah.
moved, I seconded.
Okay,
All those in favor?
okay. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Still on board?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, next 11A, the Marino student spotlight, Dr. Jeff Wilson.
All right, yeah, so this is something new that we're starting tonight. So I know this is why you all came out, it's for the spotlight, which I'm so excited about. So we really, you know, as I've traveled around the Straight District and seen the wonderful things happening that aren't necessarily associated with our traditional content, but other things as well. We have such excellent students who are doing amazing things, and so we came up collectively with the idea of beginning a process of identifying those kids and the coaches and the activities directors and everything associates with them to bring them in and give them an opportunity to showcase what they've done. So we're very proud tonight of our San Marino High School Speech and Debate program. The Speech and Debate provides students with invaluable critical thinking, organization, and communication skills that benefit them in areas that expand far beyond preparing for a competition. The skills acquired through speech and debate generate confidence in public speaking for other classes and activities, as well as in interviews, and help students gain more perspective on seeing an argument from all sides. To name just a few of the overall benefits. For the 19th time, the San Marino High School Speech and Debate team won the Southern California Debate League in the overall sweepstakes trophy this year. And I think, I'll pause there for a second and say, 19 years of winning anything in the world. It also means that the 5 students took first or second place at both the fall and spring tournaments. So we're very proud of everyone on the team, as well as their leader, Matt Slim. So we've invited Matt, if he wouldn't mind making his way over to the podium, to say hello and talk a little bit about the team, and if you have some of your team members here to join you over there. Can you make it? Can you run the front here?
Can I try this? Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Dr.
It's not 19 years in a row. It's 19 times since the trophy has been offered. Because I had to make the Southern California Debate League provide the trophy. It's been offered 20 times. Under my leadership, we won it 19. So you know, that's a point of pride for me because I really believe in debate. And we have also done speech. They had the sweepstakes trophies for speech, but they didn't have it for debate for some reason, probably because no other school was as good at it as we were. Okay? And so I just want to say that that has been part of my growth as a professional in getting other schools and our league to recognize what it is our wonderful students do. So thank you very much for the acknowledgement. I think it's a real luxury actually for us to be here tonight and for you to say that I guess we're the first that you're honoring in this way.
Absolutely, very.
I was down here 2 years ago for a very similar reason, and it was lovely, and we all had a wonderful time. And I was able to introduce our state and national qualifiers to the board and commend them to the board. for recognition, and I'm going to do that again tonight. I'm not going to take up too much time other than to say that I think it's a real luxury because I know you all are dealing with far weightier matters right now than acknowledging the recognition of an outstanding program. But these kids that are with me, these 10 kids, it's not 5, it's grown. It's 10, and it's actually going to be more. Because we also have some national qualifying tournaments coming. To recognize a program of excellence for me means everything to me. It means everything to me. Because I go to work every day for these kids. And that is the beginning of my day, and it's the end of my day, is what is best for these kids. And how can I support them? And how can I help them achieve, some of their dreams, some of their passion. Sometimes people say that speech debate saves lives. Okay, that's great. No, speech and debate actually creates lives for a lot of students and pushes them on paths. In law, how many of you are lawyers? Almost all of you. Guilty as charged. I am. You know that.
Yeah,
and Mr. Norgard knows that.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer too.
Even know who one of your former clients was.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we create incredible bonds with the kids, and we try and draw out what's best out of them so that they can communicate it. Another thing that Mr. Norgard would know, and maybe only Mr. Norgard would know, maybe Mr. Cheng, is that after being in this district, teaching in this district for 10 years, I am still incredibly close with some of the students that I've had before, including our mutual friend, the former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, and other students. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to work in this district. It's a blessing to teach these kids, and I look forward to doing it again. As long as you keep asking me to come back and do it. At that point, times are tough. I get it. At this point, I would like to recommend for commendation to the board the 10 current students. The 10 current students. Mark here? Did Mark ever show up? Yeah, there he is. Okay. So the 10 current students who have qualified for the state or national championships, and we do have more coming. We're not even done. When you see long hair, Matt, what that means is that I'm in the 9th week of, we have 13 tournaments in 11 weekends during the 3rd quarter of the year. And so that's what I devote all my time to. And that's when I'm in the middle of it. We have 2 more. We have 2 more national qualifying tournaments. And then we'll see bump ups and things like that. But just for now, since this is the day you asked me down for the privilege of being here for your first commendation, I would like to recognize my wonderful, wonderful students. First of all, senior Lisa Liu. Qualified for the state and national championships in LD.
Can you come to the...
Oh,
yeah.
She is qualified for the state national championships. Oh yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
They're used
Yeah. Whatever they want, Lisa. Whatever they want. She is qualified for the state and national championships in Lincoln Douglas debate for the 2nd year in a row. Is it the 3rd year in a row, LD?
State is 3.
State is 3. Nationals is 2. Okay. One of my finest students. Redette Retta. A junior who has qualified to the state championships in original advocacy, where she delivers a powerful and tear-jerking discussion about medical apartheid. and correcting medical apartheid. Elena Lee. Sophomore, right? Yeah. A sophomore who has qualified to the state championships in expository speaking. Can we mention the topic? No, okay. It's sex ed. Okay, but it's totally clean, totally perfect. Everyone loves it. They sent her to the state championship. Zihao Wang. A sophomore who has qualified for the state championships in policy debate, the most difficult form of debate. Also, I shouldn't say, as everyone probably in this room knows, he's also one of our nationally ranked tennis players. Thanks. Ethan Wang, a freshman. Has qualified for the state championships in extemporaneous speaking, where he gets a question about geopolitics. He has 30 minutes to prepare a speech on the topic, and then he delivers a 7-minute speech answering the question. My good friend Colin Mock, a senior. Automatically qualified for the state championship in Lincoln Douglas debate by winning first place at both the fall and spring debate tournaments. And he's been a student of mine for 6 years. Justin Zhang. Justin Zhang has qualified for the state championship in policy debate, again, the most difficult form of debate, and he's also been with me for 4 years. Finally, not finally because of Mark, but the Chon twins, Jane Chon's twins. Jacob and Thomas qualified for the state championships in policy debate, the most difficult form of debate, and they were not partners. One was Zihao's partner, and one was Justin's partner, and they took excellent care in mentoring their younger students, which is what we do on the team. The seniors, the more seasoned students help me train the younger ones. And then finally, Mark McDermott. Who has qualified for the state championship in Lincoln Douglas debate and is a sophomore. And the last thing that I want you to think about what I just said is how many of these students were freshmen and sophomores. Okay, that's a lot. That's a lot. San Marino doesn't rebuild. Every year, we reload.
Tough, but we're going to try to get
it's a little back.
So guys, we got to get creative a little bit. You guys want to scoop it around. And we want to present this certificate, Coach Slim. And this is the San Marino High School Speech and Debate Team for winning the 19th Southern California Debate League Overall Sweepstakes Trophy, and for the overall success of this program through the 2019-2020 school.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah.
There you go. All right.
You and someone else wants to hold it? That's fine too. Yeah, you hold it. You hold it, Colin. You hold it, Mark. Why not? And I don't want to block any of my students. I don't want to block any of my students.
Look at that camera.
Okay, 1, 2. 1, 2. One more.
it's okay with you all, I know you probably have a lot of stuff to get to. These students have midterms.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, yes.
And if it's okay with you, I'd like to be able to dismiss them
Absolutely.
so that they can study, because they all have 4.5 GPA. Thank you so much. Thank you.
May I just say something? And Matt, before you leave, the mutual friend and former San Marino High School student that Coach Slimp referred to was also became in effect the #3 national security advisor to the President of the United States. And if you could email me that picture, because we may want to use that. There's one picture taken of our mutual friend, former student here, with the National Security Advisor, General Jones, whom I'm not going to have lunch with in 3.5 weeks, because I want to see these guys. And another person that some people may know, Barack Obama. Just in the course.
He was personal assistant to the president, and
Right.
he was present in the Situation Room during the Osama bin Laden raid.
Right.
Dr. Smith was. And he was a former student of mine when I taught at a different school. I tutored him.
And you carried him right along.
Yeah.
And the reason that the west side of the San Marino High School campus is depressed is like that is because all of that metal in his room.
So absolutely, I will send you that, and I'll get you in touch with him if you want.
Yeah.
He and I are still in very close contact.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Norgard.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next 11B, COVID-19 district update. We have one comment, Leticia Aranda.
Thank you, board and everyone present. I wanted to talk a little bit about our communications that have transpired regarding the virus. We're all working together to try to address the new needs that have been placed upon us. But this week we had a glitch in our communication, or last week I should say. I'm sharing this respectfully because it's information that should be shared and should be known. On March 4th, I sent a message, a communication to our communications person asking for clarification on some items. I also sent a message to Stephen Choi and Mr. Gil Gapenas. And the responses I received from Dr. Choi were perfect. We're working on it. We're looking for solutions. We are in the midst of doing what we know works, but working towards finding more resources. The response from Mr. Cardenas was great. We're on it. We are trying to communicate with our staff. But one of the other responses fell a little bit short because I felt the frustration. The response was, we're trying to work together. And yes, we are all trying to work together. But when we send out a communication that says we're doing something more than what is actually in place, it makes the situation difficult because our teachers are also part of our community. And although things are in place, I know that you receive so much from LACO and from the CDC, but I would hope that we work closer together in relieving anxieties and in answering questions. It's not a reprimand, it's just simply another appeal to include us in the dialogue, include us in meetings where you're in need of communicating to our teachers, because you can't do it on your own. We understand this, and so we would simply like to be a greater part of the process. We're moving ahead beautifully. Our custodians have been wiping down tables and wiping down doorknobs. We received a notice to voluntarily take a new training where we can learn how to not only clean, disinfect, but sanitize. But those things came out after the initial, we're doing this. And we come under such scrutiny already. We're just asking for, before we leap forward, before we run, let's talk and walk together before we leap. Once again, we're doing an amazing job. We're getting our ducks in a row, we're getting things in order. And we're ever so grateful for Joseph Chang, who I know we're gonna recognize for helping us get needed supplies in our schools. Thank you so much for working so hard to do right by our students and to do right by our community. And I said this in the beginning of the year, and I didn't receive, I received a bit of a reprimand when I said, please include us. And so I stepped back. I'm asking it again, please include us. Because in times of need is when we need to come together, and especially with these next days coming forward where we're really
20 seconds.
Thank you for your time. And again, we're in it together.
Yeah, I'm going to share this presentation with my team. So tonight's presentation, as Mrs. Ryan indicated, there is a tidal wave of information coming from a bunch of different directions on the coronavirus. And this is an emotional piece. There's a lot of factual stuff out there. You know, again, we've had one child at this point identified in the state of California as of yesterday. And I will say this caveat is based on the news that came out as late as yesterday afternoon. There's still only one student in the state in Northern California, Elk Grove Unified School District, and Elk Grove took the unprecedented step of even against their own county Office of Education advice to dismiss schools. And they are the only unified school district so far in the state to do that. This might be a little hard to read, but as of yesterday afternoon, these were the only posted schools and school districts in the state of California who had actually closed their doors. And again, the only unified district is the Elk Grove district. The rest were individuals or private schools. Now that number may have changed by the end of today, the way this tidal wave is moving. Again, this is very recent information that has been brought forward to us over the weekend. And by the way, I want to pause here for a second and say, there's a lot of difficult things happening right now, and I think we got to pause for a minute and recognize that there's a lot of difficult issues, and I appreciate those who recognize that. In the middle of everything else that's happening, this happened to us, and we got to remember that. And so we have a lot of people, including board members. I really appreciate my board members who have been doing a lot of research themselves. But all of us in one way, shape, or form have been monitoring information from LA County Public Health, California Department of Education, state public health agencies, the CDC, and trying to consolidate that information and actually find what the true recommendations are from these agencies and follow those. So that's what I hope you get out of tonight. So here's a couple of things that Governor Newsom responded to and the state responded to. What is the state actually recommending for schools and what they should do in their response? And I think for us that means getting ready, and that's why I highlighted that. As of over the weekend, Governor Newsom said, school districts must prepare for these scenarios. The idea that if not, he says it right there, it's not a question of when, it's a question of when, not if. So as a parent, what should I be concerned about? And again, this is again from the state, Board of Public Health. The risk remains low in the state of California, especially low in Southern California. Now in Northern California, starting to see quite a bit of action. But we must prepare for the possible spread of this virus. And I know Jason was listening to a podcast today with some very interesting information on it, and maybe what we're not completely hearing from the rest of the world. So we are monitoring carefully, we are preparing, and the primary objective for us is to continue to provide a high quality education to every student in a safe and healthy environment for both our students and staff. And I appreciate that you recognized our custodial group that's been out working very, very hard in our classrooms on a daily basis to do the best we can as far as creating a clean and safe environment. So this presentation will cover a few things here, and I'm going to give people an opportunity to jump in here. But you can see what we're going to cover. So under student staff safety, I don't know if I was handling this or is that?
Sure, so as part of this piece, we have been working closely together with everybody, all hands on deck across the district. I've been working closely with our district nurse, Bob Judge, who's in the room today, consulting almost daily since I started here. So the first update was sent by Bob and his team. And then when I started here, I worked with Bob to just make sure we were all on the same page and to alleviate some of that burden for him because he's got other responsibilities to do as the district nurse. So just being in touch with him, who he's also been in touch with the LA County Office of Education and their nurse, and just training our health aides and making sure everybody's equipped from that level.
This is a small print, I won't ask you to look at this, but I wanted to show that there is this coordination between the CDC, LA County Office of Public Health, the California Department of Education. You know, what we're learning right now is these agencies are trying to communicate with one another, trying to work very closely with each other, and we're trying to replicate that in our own region as well. So this would be from the CDC. This, by the way, this presentation will be online, and you will find the reference points there as far as the URLs if you want to access this information. So custodian physical plant. Mr. Cardenas, were you going to share a little bit, or?
Well, one of the things we kind of added to the normal routine is
I'm sorry, wouldn't mind standing up? Thank you so much. Yeah.
One of the things we've done, aside of the normal cleaning, is we wiping down door handles, switches, the common areas, wiping down part of the chairs, like the back side of the chairs, top part of the tables, like the sides. The tables and chairs only get cleaned, but now we're getting disinfected. It kills the viruses and all that, so we changed actually different chemicals that helps kill the coronavirus, so it should help. So.
Yeah, and there's a piece here that I've learned along the way that apparently, and maybe Dr. Choi can speak to this as well, is people that have to be trained in how to do this and actually be certified. Are we going to mention that, Stephen, for a second?
Yeah, the state requires public school employees to be certified in dealing or handling pesticides. And sometimes we may not think of, for example, certain types of chemicals that are just common sanitizing chemicals as pesticides, but they actually technically are, right? So one of the things that we shared with the faculty and staff is the opportunity to complete the certification online. It's anywhere from a 40-minute to a 2-hour online course that will educate our faculty and staff on how to properly handle chemicals.
And our custodians get trained on our chemicals every year. Anytime that we have a change of chemicals, if it requires a different training, they're all trained.
And I know, Dr. Choi, your crew also got trained. Can you talk a second about that, or are you going to do that later?
Yeah, so the technical tech staff have completed their online training so that they can properly clean, for example, Chromebooks, keyboards in the classroom. So I think it helped educate us in how to properly do it with the available chemicals that are out there.
I just want to chime in here a little bit. So to our custodial staff, I want to thank you, publicly thank you and your staff, because this is not just the basic cleaning that they have to do each night with vacuuming, cleaning, dusting, taking out the trash. This is additional work that we've asked the staff to do in terms of looking at that and then the certification. Thank you, Stephen Choi, because as we're approaching testing period with SBAC, LPAC, all of the testing, looking at how we disinfect and clean the keyboards and what the kids are touching is very important to us. And thank you. So thank you to both departments for doing the job.
And one of the things that Amber is doing so well, and I'm asking her to do on a daily and sometimes hourly basis, is updates to the staff and community, and so she's working very hard. She has reached out to Chief Rueda at the city as well, and the guys at Interagency to make sure that we're all on the same page, so we'll let her talk a little bit about that.
So yes, ultimately, when I started here, it was kind of hit the ground running approach because things started to develop rapidly and they continue to evolve daily. So we're on coronavirus update 8, and we will be sending out update number 9. These are being sent through the constant contact listserv, so if you have anybody that you know that are not receiving these updates, you can sign up for this newsletter or through constant contact on our home website. We do have a dedicated webpage that's got all of our updates listed there, as well as just any other information with factual based sources and links to just helping keep the community informed. And if you will,
yeah, sure.
And then to just go on back to the fact that we have so much information that we're trying to synthesize. We get updates daily from LA County Office of Education, who's also getting updates from LA County Department of Public Health, the California Department of Public Education, and the California Department of Public Health, as well as the CDC. So we're constantly getting updates from these resources, and we're all working together. I have been in communication daily with Fire Chief Rueda, who's working with the City of San Marino on strategizing with us to make sure that we're all attacking this in a unified front and making sure that our communications and our plans of action are all aligned together so that we can better support one another. Again, too, we've been in daily communication with our County Office of Education, just staying updated on any breaking news, but also on any best practices that are changing with respect to the evolution of the COVID-19 virus. We're also in collaboration with school districts locally and statewide. So there's a California School Public Relations Association who is also, we're all feeling this together. So we're all working together as best we can to just make sure that we're taking any and all action that we can to ensure the safety of our students, staff, and schools and community. And we're just going to continue to follow the guidance that we receive from all of the authorities that we're continuing to stay updated on. And we are committed to communicating as quickly and thoroughly as possible with our community on any new developments that happen.
So attendance issues in ADA, so one of the things out there right now is that when Elk Grove made that decision to unilaterally close their schools, they took a very heavy risk, because when you make the decision to close your schools without the direction, okay, of the California Department of Education or the County Office of Education, you really are risking your funding. And so they are hoping, and I think they're going to be fine because the governor declared a statewide state of emergency, which clears a lot of the roadblocks. But in order for them to capture back their lost daily revenue, they're going to have to fill out a form that they have to submit to the state. And I know recently we just recaptured some ADA from about a year and a half ago. It took about a year and a half for the state to actually send us the check. And so this is a process that school districts are paying attention to. I do want to show you the impact perhaps that the COVID-19 virus has had on our attendance. So a little chart just to show you that total absences last year on yesterday's date, as of that moment, were 9,645. As of this year, 10,673 absences. A 1 year increase of 1,028, which at about $80 per day per kid works out to lost revenue of about $82,000 as of right now. And I know you may be thinking right now, why is he talking about revenue? This is about student safety, and we agree. The first order of business is about student safety. Okay, and so we're hoping, and I just read a bulletin today that looks promising for our ability, based on the fact the governor declared a state of emergency, the same continues to spiral, that we'll have the opportunity to apply for some of our lost revenue in the future. But that's the impact it's having right now. This is just, the question has come up, what if I voluntarily withhold my student from school, put them on independent study? That's not what independent study is. As of right now, this isn't meant to be a harsh statement at all, but it's a simple statement of fact that the state has not created a mechanism outside the California Ed Code for justifying absences based on the fear or the uncertainty of this virus. So as of right now, there is no mechanism in the state code to code a kid's absence for anything other than what it should be under the law, if that makes sense. And, but at the same time, we also understand that the state of California has a law that says any student who misses school for 3 days without excuse or any part of the day after 30 minutes 3 times is subject to truancy. We all know that's not going to happen, right? I mean, we know that all over the state right now there are kids missing schools in numbers. So this is a big uncertainty. That's all I can tell you right now. As far as ADA and absenteeism and how we're going to have to deal with this after the fact, every school district is asking that question right now and does not know the answer. Possible school closures, again, this is kind of what I said a little bit earlier, but closing a school simply as a precaution may result in an LEA, local educational agency, not qualifying for a J13 waiver and a penalty for failure to offer the statutorily required instructional days and or minutes. So this kind of points us towards, as we make these plans, these preparation plans, because in any moment we might get a call from the County Office of Public Health to say, you need to close your schools, right? So if that were to happen, we need to make sure that we have plans in place to address that. So that brings us to Dr. Choi, preparing for teleschool and online classes.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson.
Would you like to
Absolutely. No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Okay, gotcha.
When the CDC urged schools to create a plan for teleschooling, that was a big signal for us to really figure out, not just figure out a plan, but to get data on how we would plan for teleschool. Teleschool is not something that we currently do on a day-to-day basis. So one of the first things that I did was work with some of our faculty to develop a survey to not just take inventory of the systems that we have, but to take an inventory of skill sets and systems that are actually currently being used in the classroom with students. And from that data, we got valuable data to help us develop a training that would match the needs of our students as well as our faculty. And within a period of about 2 weeks, we actually delivered the training today. We delivered a training that was both online as well as on-site to all of our teachers and faculty at all 4 school sites. In addition to that, we're learning a lot. We're monitoring the situation closely with many schools that are going through a similar situation, especially school districts that are in areas that are more impacted with the coronavirus. So we've been monitoring, for example, the North Shore School District up in the state of Washington. And we've learned a lot, a tremendous wealth of how they've been able to navigate this scenario of preparing for teleschool. And sometimes it's just being a few steps ahead of the situation. So from that, we are developing a Preparing for Online Classes mini website. And this website is not just for our faculty and staff, it will be a resource for our parents as well as our students. We knew from the data and from our training today that we will be leveraging 2 existing systems. One is our PowerSchool Unified Classroom system that our parents and students and teachers are very familiar with, and incorporating a Google tool called Google Meet to provide synchronous learning opportunities. In addition to that, I've been training my technology team and in piloting a tool called Live Chat, which is a support tool that enables 2-way communications on a website, not just for our faculty, but for our students and parents as well, should we be in the position of jumping right into teleschooling and creating classes online. So we believe we're prepared. We're much more prepared than we were yesterday. And as the situation develops, we will continue to communicate and to train our faculty and staff.
And just a couple of words, you may have heard some talk about universities who have already called classes off. I know USC is actually doing a trial. They're not doing it full blown yet, but Stanford has essentially gone to online for the last 2 weeks of the quarter. Many universities, I know UC Berkeley has done it, Washington State, so many universities have done this, and we had this conversation earlier today. I bring this up because if you think about this, already at most of our universities, many kids or students are learning in a blended or online way. Also, they're not as tied to some of the structures that K-12 is as far as classroom times and ADA and all those other things. So for a university, believe it or not, it's actually a much simpler thing to say your professors are going to interact with you online. Our struggle is, like, when you think about some of the intensive courses specifically at the high school, right? You're talking about AP courses, kids getting ready for AP exams and things like that. A lot of that is very teacher dependent. So we have to be able to create systems where our teachers are able to interact with our kids in meaningful ways, and then we need to give them as much support as we possibly can to ensure that they're able to do that. Like I said, this is not something we asked for, something that kind of happened to us, and so this is, as I always like to look at things, an opportunity. This is a real opportunity for us to test our capabilities and to really stretch ourselves as all of us are as educators, both parents and our teachers and our staff and our administrators. So lots going on with that. Thank you, Stephen, for all your hard work on that and your team. So there's been a lot of questions come our way about community gatherings. And you heard Mr. Chang mention, I believe the Huntington's actually called just about all public gatherings off till May, I think is what we heard today. So there's a lot of organizations right now looking at themselves and saying, should we be meeting? I know the NBA is talking about playing to empty arenas. Recently, I think I believe the Major League Baseball teams closed their locker rooms to anybody except the players in spring training. So it's kind of happening, mushrooming all around. And so I just want to share with you, again, this is not my recommendations for this, but it is the county and the state. Currently, we are in scenario 1 right there. Current CDPH recommendations for counties without evidence of community transmission. So right now, they still haven't said that we've evolved from that to scenario 2. So they're not recommending at this point. It doesn't mean they're saying don't cancel events, but they're not recommending the cancellation of community events within a community. But event organizers should create contingency plans in case that were suddenly to happen, some kind of an outbreak were to happen. And we have to be ready to, kind of iterate whatever we're doing. We need to promote messages that discourage people who are sick from attending events. We need to provide COVID-19 prevention supplies at events. If we move into, and again, I think Governor Newsom kind of said it, when we move into scenario 2, these are some additional recommendations. Anticipate that non-essential events may need to be modified, canceled, or postponed. Consider canceling non-essential events. Primarily for older adults where this is really hitting hard. Make sure that we're discussing event details with local health officials, collaborate and coordinate with our partners, and provide constant updates. So this has to do with specifically community gatherings. And then if you go online later on, check this out. We've provided some resources for school leaders and also some community resources for you. So that concludes tonight's update. Thank you.
By the way, I have a couple of comments based on the last 2 weeks. I participated the community event and also school activity. As you know, my background, the hospital administrator and also major in the public health. So I see that right now, I think we need to put more cautious in our community. Although, look like right now still safe. But as you know, yesterday the LA County already announced the first case, so-called community spread. So that is a signal, you don't know where the resource come from. As you know, a couple of months ago, they from the Wuhan, China, but right now actually through the airplane. They only go to Italy and then Iran and Europe. So right now, I think that the U.S. Condition you never know. So with that, I like to recommend, I think that this community resident need to consider some changes the habit, So we need to have a healthy habit. Healthy habit means the priest, don't hug each other. Yeah, even I know everyone treat people very friendly, but that's the big issue. The quickly spread in the Korea, in the China, yeah, in the Japan, yeah. So it is very important, yeah. So I think we probably need to do like this.
Yes.
Okay. But please, please don't hug. I'm very serious because I am follow up every day, and also my relative, most of the physician, they are in the meeting every day, have a daily report. Yeah. So another thing you have to be cautious because in LA downtown they have a lot of homeless. So once they get effect, so then you never know. So maybe they affect to other one. So that's also dangerous. I don't want to be scare each of you. But another thing, the nursing home, if you have an elderly, the nursing home, they transport by the ambulance. So that also is a resource potentially can get effect. So I recommend if you have a kid volunteer in a nursing home or some play the piano or the violin to an elderly person, maybe temporarily should stop. Yeah. So I think any possibility to get effect, I think it's possible. Yeah. So I think the human being temporarily have to keep the distance. Yeah.
Thank you, President Chang. I also want to add one of the sites I've been at, which was very helpful, is they asked us to think about not just how we're prepared at the schools or how we plan things, in terms of cleaning and how we teach our children to clean their hands, but also think a little bit about if there was a hurricane, if there was an earthquake, how do we help our own families prepare at home with supplies and water and those things. And this is just a great opportunity to start talking to your family about those preparations as an individual family, having supplies for 7 to 14 days, food, just essentials that we don't really think about because we can go to the supermarket anytime. But if there was some sort of slow or closures of things, how would we respond? I volunteer at the hospital on Sundays, and even at the hospitals, because of the healthcare workers and our high alert for safety for them, we've changed protocol. We don't have the animals visit the patients anymore. They clean differently. The hours of visitation at a hospital is different now. Only certain people, like a patient may only be allowed 1 visitor a day, 2 visitors a day, to decrease the percentage of exposure for somebody who's already sick, who's already compromised. So when we're looking at spring break, lots of families have planned trips and things, and the airlines have issued out notices that if you cancel at a certain time, you can use it as a credit for another trip, and they've done a lot in terms of just trying to get the information out to people. So those are, considerations that we all want to prepare and think about and talk to our children and our family about it so that we can improve our practices and how we handle the situation as a community. Thank you.
I just want to.
Lisa?
I just. Thank you very much, Dr. Wilson, Dr. Choi, for all the work that you've done, and Amber for communicating to the community. And so, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. To begin by thinking a little bit like a lawyer, a wise city leader advised Joseph and me in a conversation recently to make sure we had all our paperwork prepared and ready to go for when the grant money or other assistance starts coming. And this is really a time to dot I's and cross T's with respect to potential state help, even federal, our healthcare providers, the insurers we're affiliated with. We want nobody to be able to come back and say we didn't dot an I or cross a T, and therefore, I think the deep cleaning, and I assume, Gil, that what you're doing is what's been called deep cleaning or equivalent to that. And I know that started, at least I first became aware of it at Clifton Middle School in Monrovia. And they did that because a parent was a medical care professional who might have had contact with a patient who possibly had the virus. Well, how many parents in San Marino fit that description? I mean, a lot. And secondly, I think, Dr. Wilson, you used the phrase, it wasn't tsunami, but something like that. And the effects of this are just, accelerating dominoes. For example, we've talked about the online courses potentially, and that's in driving here tonight from my office downtown. It was just like one after another. UCLA is shutting down, and Stanford, as you mentioned, Stanford's even canceled at mid-weekend, which I hope doesn't mean what it sounds like. But in University of Washington, et cetera, and nobody, I think, no institution wants to be hanging out there and develop the virus and say, well, you all didn't act. But what I wonder about, just carrying the tsunami effect farther, is our standardized test, college boards, ACT, college board AP exams, what
is way out there, but I see it.
Yeah, right, and particularly from, different regions, different, do California kids get some sort of a waiver or postponement, et cetera. And then finally, just to bring it back a little closer to home, one thing I guess you are going to have to decide is, for example, whether, I don't know where this stands now, but the spring break choir trip to Washington, D.C. What happens there?
So that's that guidance that we're looking at with regards to community gatherings, right? And so as of this point, there's been no direction given to us by public health organizations on that. The stance that we're taking at this point is that certainly parents have every right in the world to pull their kids from events, and clubs and teams will have to make those collective decisions, and we'll stand as much behind them as we can. And that could change at any moment as well. That could change to the directive.
So you're all thinking about whether the students are going to be showing up in the classroom or not, but as parents, we all have to think about what we do with them if the schools get closed. And I encourage all the parents to speak to their employers. I mean, my work has already started asking, for those of you who have laptops, let's make sure that they're all connected properly, and thankfully we have a decent remote system, but I have a bunch of staff that they have a PC on their desk. And so that's going to be a huge concern if the school have to close down. Having kids running all over town isn't the best thing for not spreading trying to isolate and not spreading community across the community. So I encourage all the parents to go out and speak to their employers about what would be the case or what would be the possibility of working from home. And I know some employers are more open to those ideas generally than others, but I think it's a very real possibility that there'll be a snowball effect. So whether it's the school's closed for chicken or the egg, the school's closed first and send everybody home, and then the parents have to figure out how to do it. Let's be honest. A lot of times we lean on our elderly the grandparents of the kids, and maybe that's not the best choice. With them being the elderly being one of the groups that's so susceptible to this. But just to I think under the guise of things changing, I think that the CDC or somebody came out later today saying they recommend closing all convalescent homes and all retirement, aid type homes to visitors altogether because of this very issue. So I just recommend all the parents speak to your employers and be ready for this. At least hopefully one of the parents can get that exception from their office or the ability to work from remotely, because especially for elementary kids, I can imagine what it's going to be like for teachers to try to teach remotely to an elementary kid and make sure that if we're assuming they're going to sit in front of a computer or a screen of some sort to try to communicate the lesson to them. I mean, obviously we need parents there that are going to help with that. So just from the parents' perspective.
And we received no guidance, unless Jason has something new, on what about students with IEPs? Students who have very specific support systems in their IEPs. What does that look like? So again, I don't know if I'm using anything today, but so far nothing.
But reaching out every day.
And just another example of ripple effect, if I could say this. ELAC canceled the thing with Senator Rubio today. Harvard is one of the many outlets gone online, told the kids don't come back, and Harvard or the Ivy League has canceled its men's and women's basketball tournaments. So who goes to the NCAA?
How about March Madness with no spectators?
Yeah, right.
It will be very mad.
It will be very mad, right? So thank you all for continuing to communicate to us and with us. One little piece I should have put in there, looking at Christina sitting here, was that I regularly meet with our PTA presidents and Mitch Lee, our council president, and they do an amazing job of kind of ear to the ground at each site and knowing what's happening, and then communicating that with me and having the opportunity to communicate back with our PTA president. So I had a chance to meet with them on Thursday, and we'll keep them in the loop as well.
So, Grace, you have some comment. Last time I think you are 3 years old. Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment because I did talk to ASB today, and I wanted to see where they were at about everything. And I think one of the biggest concerns, especially being a high school student and being a senior, is one of the concerns is we're only allowed 9 absences. So kids who are sick are still going to proceed to show up to school because they can't afford to take another absence. And I think also, but that doesn't even just match with seniors. Don't have an absence requirement when you're a junior, but you're still going to show up because you don't want to miss those classes, and taking a sick day isn't worth it. So I think that is one of the biggest concerns right now.
Thank you. Yeah, we're aware of that. And
thank you.
We hear you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, I refer to Dr. Wilson.
I'll take over from there. This is an opportunity to recognize our board president. So I got to tell you that from the beginning of when this hit, even before Amber came on board, and Amber's right, by the way, the day she arrived here on the job was the day the windstorms knocked out the lights. And so literally she arrived at the office. I said, congratulations, welcome aboard, let's get to work. Boom. And so it has been that kind of a ride ever since. And Joseph has been really kind of my, I don't know what to call him. He's my medical advisor, my ear in the community. He's hearing from many of his constituents, and he's able to, all right, let's lay it down right there. So Joseph's been helping me out a lot with information. Have you been to Home Depot lately trying to get a mask? I was there on Saturday. Cleared out. And Joseph here was able to secure, because he is in the medical field, 1,000 of these wonderful face masks. And you notice in much of the material that hopefully we never have to get to where we're distributing these, but should a need arise, we really would appreciate this. And these are hard to come by. I was on Amazon looking for masks and other things like that just to see. And I know a lot of you know about this. I'll share a story about Stephen Choi first. Stephen got a call from his mom this weekend. Said, Stephen, I have to see you. I have something really special for you. So he gets in his car, drives up to Diamond Bar, right? Okay, where mom lives. And so mom meets him in the car and says, I've got you these 2 very special gifts. And she hands him 2 boxes of face masks that she was able to secure at $60 a box for 10, I think. Right? So, I mean, it was just a wonderful statement of a mom who was worried about her son and where he works and his colleagues, and was, gotta come get this very special gift. So this is an amazing gift from Mr. Chang to our district, and I just would like to pause and recognize him for a while.
Because I really worry about what happened for the next couple of months in the Samanino community. So I think it's very important. But so far, probably we don't need to wear a mask. But the front desk,
yeah.
I think they meet the student each morning. So they may have a high fever, and to protect our employee, I think they probably need to wear the mask. So this not just for the student, also for the teacher and our staff. It's very important.
And Mr. Chang would like to turn these over to our head nurse, Bob.
Yay.
So,
do you need any help with those?
No, Mr. Tall.
Just back your cards. I just did the math, that's for $6,000.
I know, right?
Thank you so much, President Chang, for this gift for our staff and our students. Very nicely done. Some people don't realize how difficult it is to get something like that unless you have the connection. So thank goodness we have President or Mr. Chang here. Even in back orders at schools, we're about 2-3 weeks away from even resupplying our hand sanitizers and things like that, and so it's really critical. And if parents have extras, want to donate, who's been hoarding? Okay, no, I'm kidding. So, anyways, thank you, President Chang.
So please don't call me, okay?
Because you're out, you're fresh out.
Get a couple of those.
Okay, next 11D resolution number 13 to order biennial governing board election Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. Dr. Wilson.
My contacts are so bad right now, I cannot read this. So I'm going to ask Linda if she could read this first.
I said I can.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just reading the middle section.
Yeah.
Okay, this is resolution number 13, resolution ordering governing board member election. Resolved that pursuant to Education Code, EC, sections 5000 through 5030, the Los Angeles County Superintendent of Schools, County Superintendent, is hereby ordered to call an election for the purpose and in accordance with the designations contained in the following specifications of the election order made under the authority of Education Code section 5302, section 5304, and section 5322. The election shall be held on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. The polling hours shall be from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The purpose of the election is to submit to the voters of the district the question of whether 2 members shall be elected to the governing board of the San Marino Unified School District. This is a first reading.
Any questions? Well, in the copy I have, I don't know if we've seen multiple copies, but one change that would have to be made is at the end where it says listing of 2 newspapers, the San Marino Tribune and the San Marino Outlook. luck.
Sorry. So my understanding is in the second reading that we will have that.
Right.
Yes.
And I don't know if you need to fix the times, but I don't think that cause it says, again, just formalities probably, but Tuesday, November 30th, the polling hours shall be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on multiple days at the voting centers. Those voting centers aren't open that early they're open that early on the election day, but not on all the days. So you may want to just so we don't make sure that there's no.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Small bit.
Any more questions? So this first reading, so we'll continue. Okay, next 12 action item, 12A 2019 to 20 second interim financial report and a long-range financial projection. Dr. Corey.
Yes, President Chang, members of the Board of Education, Superintendent Wilson, and executive team. This evening, I am here to present to you the 2019-20 second interim financial report. Do I just put it right? Wonderful. Okay. So the district is required to submit 2 financial interim reports to the Los Angeles County Office of Education each year. The first interim covers the period of July through October, and the second interim covers the period of July through January. In order to certify that the district can meet its financial obligations for the current and 2 subsequent fiscal years, the report must highlight budget adjustments during this period and provide a multi-year projection demonstrating the district's ability to remain solvent. So, further discussing some key assumptions regarding revenues, expenditures, and our ending balance. On the revenue side of the house, you have declining enrollment, one-time monies the governor has provided for special education, early intervention preschool, and an increase in parent and miscellaneous donations. These increases are related to the monies that the district receives for outdoor education this time of year, just so that we understand where that funding is coming from. And that is for both the middle school and the high school outdoor education programs and other various field trips. On the expenditure side, we have step-and column increases, increased district contributions for CalSTRS and CalPERS. And I'd just like to break that out for you. The step increase cost is $260,000 for certificated, $160,000 for classified, and $210,000 for statutory benefits, which would include health and welfare benefits. So this is a total of $630,000. And then we have, of course, the state mandated reserve for economic uncertainties in the amount of 3%.
I was going to ask you, those increases you're talking about, those are not between the first interim and the second interim, they are between last year and this year?
They happen, yeah, between last year and this year, yes. Okay, so moving on to enrollment and funded ADA. So this chart illustrates the difference between the CBEDS enrollment and funded ADA from 2015-16 through 2021-22. So you can see that our funded ADA and CBEDS enrollment are both declining. And enrollment, to be more specific, enrollment is down 227 from a total of 3,137 students in 2015-16 to 2,909 students in 19-20. Funded ADA is down as well from 164.83 from 3,073.48 in 2015-16 to 2,908.65 in 2019-20. And as the board is aware, we are funded primarily on P2 ADA. And Dr. Wilson mentioned a little earlier that we're going to be concerned about the number of absences that we have had this year as compared to last year during the same period of time. However, we get a 1-year pass, so if our P2 ADA is higher, we have a higher number last year than we do this year, we can use last year's number for next year's funding. but that will catch up to us eventually unless there's some sort of waiver that we can apply for from the state. Okay, so moving on. So our key revenue assumptions are listed here for you. The reduction in LCFF funding is for $51,777, and that is due to the prior year EL audit finding that we had and we've discussed with the board, and $2,022 due to 3 less unduplicated count students, which is a 0.10% of our enrollment in that category. We also have an increase in state revenues of $117,130 for special education intervention preschool grant, and $1,207 increase in mandated block grant money. We also have an increase in special education funding and increases in regional program reimbursements.
May I ask, the special education funding is that the federal contribution?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question? Sorry.
The special education
Yes.
funding, is that the federal contribution?
That is
IDEA?
that is a combination, right, of the federal and the state. And by the way, I have Vanjulanga, who is our wonderful director of accounting services, sitting here to be available to answer any questions that the board may have about this that for some reason I'm not able to, because she's been working intimately with these numbers.
And can you briefly, I hate to put you on the spot, but can you break out the federal, just rough numbers, the federal portion of that?
So we have a slide, right, that kind of shows the contributions that we receive in special education versus the cost, right? Or do you want to talk about that? No, it's not on the slide, it's on the narrative. It's in the narrative, okay. But do you want to address it? You want to come up to the podium so we can hear you, Angie? Thank you so much.
If you look at the narrative, if you have them back up, it's going to be page, the line item. Towards the back, it's an attachment. And for the federal funding, we get about $180,000. That's all we get for the IDA grants. And the local funding is $2.5 million.
Yeah.
That's the state, I'm sorry, that's the state funding, AB 602. And then we have the regional programs where we get some monies for, and that's about $900,000.
And the federal is 180?
Yes.
Yeah, so there's orders of magnitude behind what they're supposed to be funding.
Right.
And then also, in going to the key revenue assumptions, federal revenues, does that include that 180?
Yes, it does include the 180 and the other title fund monies that we get.
So can you explain the difference in the LCFF spending?
Yes, that is due to an audit exception where we had to back out the number of EL students that we had originally identified as being part of the program. Perhaps Mr. Kurtenbach can explain that a little bit further.
Yeah, we had an audit finding where we had failed to redesignate approximately, let's say, 60 students as redesignated fluent English proficient rather than EL.
That was, yeah, we heard about that a couple of meetings ago.
Yes, so that is the amount of money that our funding will be reduced by next year.
Between the two.
Yeah, between the two, yeah, so. Any other questions for either of us? And you could just stay there just in case.
Yes, just to clarify that part of our LCFF funding is driven by our unduplicated count, pupil count, which is EL, and free and reduced students. So the EL count was miscounted in the last fiscal year, and when the auditors came in, they said, okay, you reported more than what you had. So this amount, about $52,000, is what they said is going to be adjusted.
Okay.
And to this point, they haven't tried to go back on us, right? To recover past, try to recover
No.
past years or re-audit
No.
past years?
Because you checked every year.
No.
We checked every year.
Yeah, we have these audits annually. Okay, any other questions on the key revenue assumptions on this page? Okay, moving on. So next we have a lovely pie chart that demonstrates the general fund revenue sources for the board. And this chart shows that our local revenues, which include San Marino Schools Foundation, 2 parcel taxes, Measure E and Measure R, special education and donations from parents, PTAs, and ASBs, are equal to approximately 30.4% of our entire budget, which is amazing. Our entire general fund revenues, that is very, very, very significant. And this district would look very different in terms of staffing and programs if we did not have those contributions. So we're very grateful for them. Okay, moving to the next slide. Additional key expenditure assumptions. So here you have before you a table that shows the general fund, first interim, second interim, and then the differences, similar to what we provided in regard to revenues. So salaries and benefits were adjusted for vacant positions that will not be filled through the end of this fiscal year. Some of those positions, as the board is aware, would be the Assistant Superintendent of Business Services, the Director of Facilities. We are also already down a few positions that we have not been filling due to what we term a hiring frost in the accounting department. And as people have resigned, retired, or gone out, we have not necessarily replaced those positions unless they are termed in the interest of health and safety for students and student welfare. So the first payment for our PARS retirement incentive is going to be $326,191. And so you will note that there is a difference in our expenditure assumptions based on that. And that was included in the second interim projections. Books and supplies were decreased for amounts not expected to be spent this fiscal year. Operating services increased by $160,000 for field trips and other service costs, and $90,000 for the TRAN issuance cost, and $100,000 for increases in non-public services through special education and consulting. And we have capital outlay increases for Chromebooks, iPads, and those were paid for by PTAs. Technology improvements and the Titan Stadium ADA compliance ramp are included in other outcome. Any questions?
Most of the time when you present expenses like this, you would present increases as a negative, so that because that's not a good guy. So you have it's flipped around, and so to present it the other way. I mean, I know revenue is one way, and you do the expenses the other way. I understand that the book works a certain way, but for presentation, it's just easier to understand. So negative is a good guy on the schedule. But usually you would present it as a positive number.
This is the way it's always been done, and I'm just.
That's fine.
I'm happy to do it.
Just a suggestion. I don't know if
other.
Can I just ask? I was gone through the book a little bit more, and I know we got this late, so I asked a bunch of questions and didn't get to see it. So there's an increase in the employee benefits of about $322.
Yes.
And I'm on page 25 of 95 in the book. Is that the retirement, or what is driving that?
The increase in employee benefits, we talked about that today.
Yes, the first payment that we have to make for the PARS retirement incentive annuity, we'll have to do it by June of this year.
So that's my question. Okay. And then is there anything that we can highlight in this the professional kind of that other catch-all, the professional fees? Is there anything? It's up from the approved budget by about $213,000.
Part of those two are the field trips for the middle school and the high school, Yosemite, and for the middle school, they have the foreign festivals that they have to go to. There's also transportation costs we have to increase the budget for, and
Largely paid for by revenues?
Largely paid for
Donations.
by
Donations.
donations, yeah. So that's just a pass-through, but we need to show it.
I mean, this category is one that's frustrated me for years, so it'd be nice to have. I think maybe hopefully the new accounting system gives us a little more insight into this, right?
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
The best, yeah.
Because this is such a catch-all in past years. I mean, it's less than it's been. I mean, it was $34 million in past years. It's less now, but it's still a big category. It'd be great to get in the practice of providing more detail.
Sure.
And then-
Yeah, absolutely, and the best program is going to be live when? So we need to look for that information.
we can start using it in April of this year for requisitions for the next fiscal year. It's gonna be live July 1st.
Right, and we're wave 3, so we're expected to be fully implemented a year from now, correct?
For starting July. So the budget that we have to adopt for the next fiscal year is gonna be on the best system.
And then your accounting for next year will be on the best system.
Yes.
Yeah, and so the last piece of that would be to move our payroll over to the best system. And so that piece will not happen until later. And there's a lot of verification.
Interface.
Yeah, you wanna make sure you get that right, so.
Sorry, just a few other questions.
Sure.
The line, and again, I like the detail book a little bit better, but tuition excess costs, is that?
Tuition excess costs would be special education, NPS, and MPA.
And then just one last thing, I noticed, some of the other pages, I noticed in food services, there's still, I didn't quite know what this was actuals through, but if it's January, that's about little more than half the year.
Right.
And we have less than half the year of,
Mhm.
I mean, it's just, food services, obviously, most of what the revenues pay for is the staff.
Right.
So I don't know if if that number was vetted or if we have an additional hole that we might have to plug here.
Yeah, so that's a good question, and actually, these questions, you probably didn't even have a chance to read them, but we did respond to you, just so you know. No, but you didn't, I'm sure you didn't have time because you had a commute. But we do have all of those responses to you in writing.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay, no, but they're good questions, and we wanna make sure we're giving you timely information. So with food services, it is a self-funded program. And the figures that you see there are solid figures. Last year, they were 813,000.
total income.
Yeah, so this year, the only additional thing that we might need to be concerned about is the unanticipated expenses related to the COVID-19, right? So now food services is getting advice from the county and the state to perhaps serve food differently in a more sterilized manner. So we're gonna have to purchase cups for cupping and those kinds of things that we would not ordinarily have put into our budget for food services. And so maybe we have to do some additional cleanings and those kinds of things. And other districts like Monrovia, Clifton, I checked with them and they did outsource that, by the way, to a company. So that it would be very deep cleaning and all the proper chemicals were used. So that might be an expenditure that food services needs to incur. So those are the variables that we're not sure about at this time.
Yeah, it was interesting. I went to we have a salad bar at work, and they don't let you serve yourself. There was people, would you like some of the,
Yeah, because you can imagine, if you just leave tongs in the salad bar and everybody is serving themselves, how that might not be a good thing in this environment.
Golden Corral might go out of business.
Some places have removed the salad bars, and any place where you serve yourself and you go down the line, I know that Soup Plantation will be hit pretty hard there.
Right.
You cannot use the tongs, it cannot be open, everything is covered, and you'll be served just a little thing of salad, you cannot help yourself.
So, yeah, those are things to watch, and if there are, dramatic swings in the expenditures within that budget, we will certainly let the board know about that.
Thank you.
You bet. Okay.
I'm sorry, just as an additional comment, the food service actuals to date are through December.
Oh, 2%.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on that before we move forward? Okay, so moving on, here is another chart that just demonstrates what the general fund expenditures are. It shows that 80% of our budget goes into salaries and benefits. And so that is where the majority of our funds are spent, which is not unique to San Marino. Many public school employers are spending, anywhere from 85 to 89 to even 90% of their budget on personnel costs. So we're right in there. So we have on the next slide, CalSTRS and CalPERS rates. And I know we've talked quite extensively to the board about the increases in both retirement programs for certificated and classified employees. And this chart illustrates the dramatic increases in both STRS and PERS, STRS being the blue bar and PERS being the red bar. And in 21-22, the cost for CalSTRS, what's the rate on that, Angie?
24.9.
24.9%. And then PERS, which is even higher.
No, I'm sorry, that's for CalPERS,
Okay,
24.9.
4.9, and then for CalSTRS,
For CalSTRS, I think it's 18.1%.
Yeah. But CalPERS is projected to continue to go up to anywhere between 25 and 28% of an employee's salary. So I'm not sure that that's quite sustainable for public school employers to be able to afford that going forward. It's taking up quite a bit of everyone's budgets, and the governor did provide a one-time offset that we are benefiting from through the end of this year, right? But we don't know whether or not that money will come through for the forward years.
Well, this number actually gets scarier based on what's gone on in the last couple of days, because there's an element of these funds performing in this, and if the stock market continues to stay lower or move lower, the return on their assets is going to go down, which means they're going to need more contributions to make up the commitments.
You're right.
And it's scary.
It is scary, and that's a very good point, and we're going to watch that going forward. But one thing I would like to mention is that school district employees contribute toward their retirement. So it's not just the employer portion. The employer portion is significant. But I know that there are some cities and municipalities that pay 100% of both the employee and the employer contributions, but school districts traditionally do not do that. Okay, so we're moving on. Other sources or uses, assumptions on the next page. So here you have a chart showing the general fund categories, first interim, second interim, and again the difference. And these are very small differences, but the largest difference that you see is a savings in the amount of money based on the salary savings in that department through the end of this year. Okay. So we are moving on to special education revenues and expenditures, and I think this chart is pretty significant in terms of the amount of revenues that we are receiving to fund special education, and then the expenditures, which far exceed the amount of federal and state funding that we receive to support special education. And I know that we're spending, 20%, almost 20% of our budget to support 9% of the population. Okay, so next we have our ending balance assumptions. And you see here that between the first interim and the second interim, there is no difference. We have the same amounts there. Projected ending balance, there's $122,000 difference, and that primarily is budgets for school supplies and services, right, for reduced carryover. Carryovers. Mm-hmm. And so you see that we have the reserve for economic uncertainties at 3%. That's the state minimum requirement. And so we have $15,832 difference in that amount.
And that is basically because of interest, right? Is that interest earnings, or what's the
You
difference?
basically have to find money to make our 3% reserve, so it's either increase revenues,
Right.
local income, or reduce expenditures.
Right. And then you can see the $106,000 in school site carryover money. And